Good evening. Welcome to the Select Board meeting of November 18th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we'll have our open forum portion of the meeting. We have representatives from Plymouth County Commissioners here to give us all the good news that we need for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the members, it's always a pleasure to be back here again. My name is Jared Valenzola, Plymouth County Commissioner and Chair. I'm joined by Jimmy Valentin from Senator Mike Brady's office, as well as my colleague, Commissioner Wright, and we're really happy to be here as we continue to disperse these funds on behalf of Commissioner Hanley as well as Treasurer O'Brien. They do send their regrets they couldn't be here, but any time we can be out again on the road delivering funds is always a good time. So before I say anything else, I would just like to turn over to Commissioner Wright to say a few words herself.
Sure. Thank you for having us here this evening. It's always a pleasure to be here. I just want to say, as I was riding around today, I began thinking about the programs that we offered, and I can't believe it's been 4 years. I mean, it just goes by so fast. But, you know, we are winding down, and, you know, I just wanted to remind you that these programs became a tough reality as never experienced before. Perhaps the most significant thing we have undertaken is administering the CARES Act and the ARPA funds, delivering twice as much money in half the time and with only 1% of the administration costs. A lot of people at home don't know what these programs were, and for anybody listening in, the CARES Act was basically just a reimbursement, and of course the ARPA funds is the infrastructure. And with that, I do have some figures for you, what we have spent or given to you people over the last 4 years, which might help those out there not understanding you know, what they were for and where the money and how much money you got. It's amazing that when I was out talking to so many different people campaigning, they had no idea about the CARES Act or the ARPA funds, or they didn't know who gave it, and you know, if it was just slid through and how the process went. And you know, so again, as I always tell people when I ran for county government, it's educating people all the way along. So the CARES Act, we gave you people $2,177,959. The ARPA funds, we gave $2,610,048.88. We can't be any happier than to have been able or had the opportunity to work with you people and your staff in doing the applications and really putting the effort and all the work into it. It's been a great team effort, and we greatly appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy, on behalf of Senator Brady.
Of course. Thank you all for having me here. My name is Jimmy J. Valentin. I'm the legislative aide to Senator Michael D. Brady. These funds, I believe, will definitely improve the quality of life assurances to our kids in the public school system, as well as ensuring a more collaborate and ensuring safety for our kids. We know that after the pandemic it was a difficult time, but with the ARPA money and the CARES Act, it's improving a lot with our public schools. And obviously, if there's any help you need from the office, please don't hesitate to call back or email us as well. So thank you all for having me here. I appreciate it, and turn it back to the Commissioner.
Thank you, and we've been very grateful for Senator Brady's support as well as Representative Sullivan Almeida. We couldn't really do this without their support. This took a team effort. I know Commissioner Wright mentioned working with Mr. Seelig and your leadership here in town. This program could not have been successful without the participation of everybody in Town Hall and our communities across Plymouth County. We are currently on track to administer this program at 1% cost. The national average is 7%. And I usually repeat that every presentation, but I'll continue to repeat that because obviously do the math on 6% of the money that we've given you if that had to go to administration. So Plymouth County was able to execute those savings and in turn send those savings down the pipeline here. And lastly, to Jimmy's point, the use of the funds that East Bridgewater had really, or has been using these funds for, is very unique. Most of our presentations, and I think Commissioner Wright would agree, have been for water, sewer infrastructure, and other infrastructure programs. But as Jimmy alluded to, a lot of the social and emotional behavioral health for students during and now since the pandemic concluded is an issue that I think kind of was flying a little under the radar. So certainly in East Bridgewater, you have not only been on the forefront of addressing that issue, but continuing to find ways to address that issue. And it's an important one. I think we are all very cognizant of the mental health situation for people of all ages. So to be able to utilize these funds to take care of those students is an incredible use of them. And I know I feel personally proud, I'm sure Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Hanley agree, that we are honored to be able to support that through these funds. So I think that's all I have. Treasurer O'Brien isn't here to correct me or tell me I missed anything, which is good. So if he's watching at home, he'll be sure to do so. But we're always happy to take questions if appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
Well, and again, I know we've said this a number of times on this board, that the foresight that the commission had 4 years ago, over and above every other, commission in this state, it's reflected by, money you're giving us now and the figures that you, gave us before, and we appreciate that, and I'm sure the town appreciates that, so thank you again on our behalf.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, to Dave's point, it's been successful in the way that it's been put forth, and we appreciate it. I always take the opportunity to thank, really, Charlie and Rebecca for Lee for all their work they've done to get the stuff out to you guys and get those approvals that we needed. So, we've got a good team here, and it was a successful run for both us and for you guys as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what Peter said, it's been a team effort from all of you to our staff to the three of us in our ARPA committee of figuring out what to do. And, nobody's ever complained about having money to spend. So this was really a great way for us to combat some of the challenges that the pandemic threw in front of us. So it's nice to see you again with that big old check.
Always. And I'll add to the emphasis. Working with your team has been wonderful. Again, this has been a very unique use of these funds. No other community in Plymouth County has done that. And obviously we have, I think Charlie and your team will attest, we have a very rigorous approval system for good reason. If we give you these funds incorrectly, we need to ask for them back, right? We don't want to do that. The Commonwealth did that with CARES, and that has happened all over the country. That did not happen with CARES. That's not going to happen with ARPA. But again, the more creative you get, it requires just that level of detail and that hard work, and your team has been pulling that off for these funds for the last several years. So we want to echo that sentiment, because we get the feedback as well from the Treasurer's office, just how much of a pleasure it's been to work with East Bridgewater, and to be able, again, to use these funds for this. This has been a very unique and very necessary use, so we're really, really pleased that we've been able to support it.
David, one person on terms of should be credited also, Melanie Dean, who's our town accountant. She's been doing a lot of the communication between the town and Plymouth County and the consultants that they've hired to work through all these programs. Without her work, we wouldn't be here tonight doing this.
Again, we appreciate that. We thank you, Charlie, for that, but a lot of people had their hands into this one, that there's no way it could have come out any better than it did for the entire town.
Absolutely.
And we do feel that we were better than the other 26 towns.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can
Say when I always say it every town I'm in, this has been the best town I've been in tonight.
Going to Carver tomorrow night, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah, you saw that, you'll hear the same thing tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely, all right, well,
And just to let you know, in defense of Treasurer O'Brien, we keep him so busy, we just don't let him out of the office.
That's true,
very
yeah,
often.
well, and
So-
Good for him.
yeah, and just the last bit of information, I know Commissioner Wright mentioned, we do like to try and educate folks, so these funds, to her
Yeah.
point, and I'm glad she mentioned it, because I did mean to. See, so I don't need Treasurer O'Brien and Commissioner Wright to correct me. So this program does sunset December 31st of this year. You do have until December 31st to get the funds expended, but we as a county need to commit
No.
those funds.
Yeah, I think it's the other way around. We need to commit by.
Commit, but then we can spend it
Right.
over the course of those 2 years. So that's, to the Commissioner Wright's, she was being
And I forget to mention.
she was being a little funny, but she's correct. We are working very diligently. I mean, we're firing through 40, 50 of these now at our commissioner meetings. So we need this to be committed, we need all the funds to be committed by December 31st of this year. So we are working, and the treasurer and his team are working incredibly hard to make sure we get all those funds out the door, because if we don't, it goes back to the federal government, and we would rather it be in East Bridgewater and Plymouth County than back in Washington DC, so.
I think we told the treasurer he was working Christmas Day, didn't we?
Yes, no, we gave him Christmas off, but the rest of the week we're in every night, so.
So, well, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you. So
It's
if
been,
we
you
could,
know,
we
We
do
look
have
great
our,
working
forward to our next check.
we do always
Oh,
have
yeah.
our big check.
Your photo op.
Of course, see, we don't bring anyone to take the picture, we just ask.
Rebecca's very good.
I can take it.
Unless you want to be in the photo, Rebecca.
I just saw your husband too, not too long.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, he told me that. Yeah, he said something about Maureen, and you were like, yeah, no, we're not in this.
I'm gonna take two cameras, okay?
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I was. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
Thanksgiving, happy holidays, all that good stuff.
Happy
Yeah, Derek, thank you.
Good to see you.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Most of the folks have got the money in the first place.
You got the real check, right?
Got the what?
The real check.
Yeah, right.
Okay, anyone else for open forum? If not, we will close open forum, and we will go to our first appointment, our only appointment actually, a joint meeting with the East Bridgewater School Committee. Gordon, if you want to... Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Thanks for having us. I think, as I was talking to Dave earlier, I think it's a great idea to open as much communication as we possibly can.
Yeah, I think it's something that's long, long overdue. Sin on both sides, I think, on this, and hopefully, not just this evening, hopefully down the road. You know, let's continue to, you know, keep communications open.
Sure. No, absolutely. I know we had a great meeting with Charlie and Melanie a couple of weeks ago. It was very helpful to hear both sides, what each side is up against. Obviously, the budget is always a challenge.
It certainly
And
is.
this year is no different, and perhaps then some. So, and, yes?
We just need to open the school committee meeting, so that way it's a joint one.
Oh, because we have a quorum. Do we have a quorum? Yes, we do. Okay, so I'll take a motion to open.
Motion to
school-
open school committee meeting.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Everyone vote? Okay, good. Thanks.
Not that we're
You're
totally
appreciated.
legal.
Now we're legal. And I know Charlie had sent over some questions, just sort of general topics you folks had. I don't know if you want to, where you want to start with that, or anything in particular?
Charlie?
Well, in fact, why don't we start off with the simpler things, maybe just so that not just the board, but our studio audience here, but also at home. We've got two ongoing major school projects right now. One is, we've been looking at the central school and seeing what we might be able to do in place of that 1950s, 1960s, I guess, what, 1980s or 90s for the
Yeah.
modules. In that, you know, obviously the town meeting months ago had approved going through the feasibility study and schematic work. We have a school building committee now made up of representation from a number of bodies and residents, teachers, parents and such. And we're now working with the architect and with the owner's project manager. I don't know if you wanted to say anything more.
Well, obviously, earlier on, Superintendent Legault did a great job getting us onto the MSBA, Massachusetts Building Authority, on their scrolls, and got accepted into the program, which means, A, they contribute funds to the process, but they also have certain standards we have to adhere to, which is fine. Obviously, they have the expertise. We build a building every once in a while. They build them all the time, so. So happy to have their direction and their expertise. And I think so far, I know we've been very happy with the owner's project manager, management. They've been terrific, and with all the experience they have leading us through this process. Now we have an architect, and for the folks at home, this is going to take a few years, and there's no decision's been made yet. The only decision been made, the town funded the process to have the project looked into, which is what we're doing. So anybody's speculation is open. It's just, we don't know what it's going to be. A remodel, a scrape and rebuild, addition, or nothing. Obviously everything, whatever all of these experts come to the table with, ultimately, everything comes back to the town, and there'd have to be a town vote to proceed forward with the funding and all. So that's still quite a ways down the road. And as Charlie said, the committee that is together now, I think they just posted, we have a
We have the public
website now.
forum. Yeah, the website's up.
Yep.
Sent out an announcement of that, but also more importantly, we have a public forum coming up in, I guess, 3 weeks from now or
December
so?
10th?
December 10th, over at the central school, not at the junior, senior high school. This way, parents, residents, anybody else who's interested in the project, they'll be able to get an update, but they'll also be able to take a look at the central school and get a better idea of why we are thinking of needing to do something than just sit still with it at this point.
Yeah,
You-
no, absolutely, and again, going back to the owner's project managers, they have obviously lots of experience in this and know that getting the information out, sort of what we talked about earlier about open communication, they're very good at that. Now help us set up a website to keep as information comes along, to keep it flowing so that people can feel like they're informed to the extent that they want to be. So.
We've had committee members work with the architect and the LPM to go out to visit various schools in Massachusetts that have been recently renovated, or new schools, to get a better idea of what educational facilities at this grade level, K through 2, K through 3, look like here in 2024. They've had visioning sessions. The architect was there over at Central School, I think in the last couple of weeks for a full day to go through, well, they did the professional development working with the teachers, but they also visited the site, the school as it was, holding classes and such, to get a better idea of, okay, what is East Bridgewater doing right now for educational programs, given the facilities we have. And they've told us they're aiming at this point for fall of 2025 to come back to the town with a set of proposals. And the town would be able to then make a decision whether to go forward or not in terms of construction. How, all the options, as Gordon has mentioned, on the table, but by that point, to have picked one option, bring it to the town for a vote as to whether to move forward or not. So it will, as Gordon mentioned, it's a year's project. I mean, when did we start looking at this? 21, 22, something like that. And we're only now in 24 and closing it on 25. And even if it's approved next fall, we're still 2 or 3 years out from opening the doors from whatever we end up building.
Right. And one point, thank you, Charlie, for that. One of the points that I know it swayed my vote, and I think other folks on the committee's vote for the honors project management company that we did sign up as, they actually have a member of their leadership team who is a retired school superintendent, and they're it isn't just, obviously, just a building, very expensive building, no doubt, but a building, and the purpose for the building is to educate, and they're very much attuned to that. We thought that was a very important part, that we didn't hear that from other entities that we interviewed, so we were very happy with that. And at the end of the day, they involve the administration, they involve current teachers to get feedback and thoughts, principal, as to what programs there are and how the footprint of the building can support that. So, yeah, it's a pretty involved process, but necessary.
And then we have a second one where it's a little bit of a smaller scale, but necessarily nevertheless. We have the Mitchell Middle School. The school administration had been working with Brian Cayley to take a look at the skin, sort of see, the roof and the windows need replacements. And we're now in line at the first step of being able to work with the MSBA to get funding for that. We're under a timeframe that they require, now that they've said, yes, you can move on to the next step, the mother may I is, the next step is you have to come up with the money for the feasibility study, just as we did for Central School, and we have a time limit of sometime in, I think, the middle or late of January to come up with the funding for that. So one of the things I'll talk with the board about later tonight is having a special town meeting, probably on January 6th, so it's up to the board's decision to come up with that funding so that we can move on to the next step. You know, if you want to say anything more about that.
No, and I think, Superintendent, you mentioned the roof is 30 years old?
Well, the roof is just, the roof is old. I don't know exact year. And we've been repairing it over and over and over again. And they'll either replace it or they will add another layer to it. They'll go and they'll find out if the patching is holding, or do they put another layer on it, just like, are we gonna do a redo, a reconstruct, replace on the Central School? So they give us those options. The only half of the windows on the older part of the building, they have to be 30 years or older, they will be the ones that'll be replaced. I do not know the cost of that at this time. We have no estimated costs from them. I know that, they can send you all those sheets to say, try to estimate the feasibility cost, but with inflation and everything else that's going up, we know that everything is rising. They did come out here during the Central School, and then they were on the roof over here, but they also went on the roof over there, and they're looking at a roof that we have 25 barrels out in the spring when it's raining for a couple of weeks. We've got some issues over that auditorium and in that hallway, and around that auditorium. They thought they patched it, but there's still some areas that are leaking. The efficiency to keep the heat in, you can't have school if you don't have a roof over your head. The boilers are still working, but that'll be something that, Brian has talked about over the past. So we're still looking at that, but at this point, we put in for the SOI because they allowed us to, and we could stay into the revolving door of the MSBA and continue to look at our buildings and to keep them updated. But at this time, we just were invited, we went to the meeting last week. They sent us I think it was a week ago.
Yeah.
Yep, we sat in, and they sent us the letter immediately after the meeting. We sent it up. And now it's just for the selectmen to push forward or not to push forward, and to ask for a special town meeting.
Now, when will we need that town meeting for?
We need it by, I think, at the middle of January. That's why I was aiming either, I think, the 6th or the 13th. The 6th, we already have our regular meeting here on the 13th. It might be better, because I'm sure we'll have some business to do, is have the separate Monday, have the town meeting then on the 6th. But I would also, I'll need to check with the school to make sure that the auditorium's available on one or both of those dates.
Okay, with the select board can change its meeting to whenever.
I know there's a couple other things on your list, budget and teachers' union negotiations. So we meet next week, well, no, not next week, December 5th, we meet with the leadership of the teachers' union to set up ground rules for negotiations. The idea is we want to start sooner than later, and we hope to wrap this up quickly as possible, but that's in quotes. But we want to move on it as quickly as we can and get all the people at the table that need to be there. We don't know what that is going to present to us, but obviously will have an impact on next year's budget. So the contract that's up is for next year. It's a three-year budget process. So we hope to have an answer on that sometime in the not-too-distant future, but that's up to both sides.
When's the first negotiation meeting, sit down?
I'm sorry?
When's the first sit-down meeting?
Well,
December 5th, we sit down to do the ground rules. And then after December 5th, then we'll have a set of dates moving forward.
But wait, there's more.
And then, of course, That'll have an impact on next year's budget. Right now, our town, like most towns, salaries represent 78–80% of the budget, what gets spent. So obviously, the contract will have a big element in that process. So, but we did have a great meeting, I thought, with Charlie and Melanie, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, and just started exchanging information, you know. I know Charlie was telling us, and Melanie, how challenged we are this year coming up for a number of different reasons. And as superintendent referenced, everything else is going up, so even salary is obviously the biggest part, but all the other elements, I know transportation's going up. Special ed has really been challenging, and that will continue. So all of that stuff is on the table, and that's, the work has started to get through that.
And I think, you know, the budget and for next year, but also ties into negotiations, vice versa. I mean, what I've provided is some information that Melanie had been putting together. We've talked over the months since this summer about what we're looking at. Our biggest headache is that the retirement system has extended the time that they're going to be able to fully fund their retirement system. We were under the impression when we went to town meeting in May that we would be done within 4 years, and now they're saying in 6. But it's not a reduction in payments during that time. It simply meant that between the changes in their actuarial tables and the market conditions, especially from 2022, that they felt that they were not able to get to a fully funded state within 4 years. That it would take 6 years with continuing increases in the assessments for all the member communities, not just the cities and towns, but regional school districts, water districts, housing authorities, you name it, all the entities that are part of Plymouth County Retirement. When the financial team, finance committee, board of selectmen and such, all had worked together last spring to try and come up with a feasible path to get us through those 4 years, we had something that might have worked back then. The problem is now it's a path that is 2 years longer, and we have no more money than we did back in May, which means we need to somehow spread that out over 6 years rather than 4. And that realization, and also, especially when we talked about the retirement, but also health insurance, those two budgets by themselves will eat up during the next 6 years most, if not all, of our increases in our property taxes for those years. The 2.5% we can get, the new growth we get every year. We'll see a little bit of more money every year in state aid, but not amount I expect unless there's some, very significant changes in the state allocation, especially for Chapter 70, and also our local receipts, which is helpful, but not. It's not going to change the fiscal picture for the town. What that means is that if we want increases in any budget line item, whether they're for union contracts or for any other reasons, that there are going to have to be subtraction somehow at the other end. Whether it's we need to cut line items to pay for additional salaries, or, and I'll say this right now, if depending on how high those increases are in union contracts, whether we lay people off, not in any particular department, but across the board. Because I think you all mentioned some of the increases we might be seeing, special education, whether or transportation on the school side, just funding everything for the town is a difficult proposition. And we will see increases, even without new contracts negotiated, we will see increases on the school contracts because of the individuals, the teachers moving up in step lanes, but also that's true for fire, police, clerical, DPW, library, et cetera, where we have individuals every year or every couple of years, they may move up a step and earn more money than they did the previous year. And we're going to have to fund those, not just, even before we fund across-the-board living increases for any contract. So I think we're going to have a major challenge with the school negotiations, but with all the non-school unions also. And we have the teachers coming up. Their contract ends this June, but that's true for DPW, it's true for the superior officers, the sergeants, firefighters, clerical, DPW, and even with the patrol officers where we're in contract negotiations that haven't been settled for fiscal '26 that they are to be. So basically, almost everybody, except I think the library, is on a cycle that we're going to be negotiating this, starting this winter. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to balance off the need, very likely in terms of market conditions, to increase salaries, but at the same time retain the levels of staff that we have. And that's true for all departments. And those things are going to tie very much together, because you all mentioned personnel is our biggest expense. It's our biggest asset also, but it's also our biggest expense. And to be able to balance all those off and come back to town meeting in May of 2025 with a balanced budget, one hopes with contracts negotiated, it's going to be extremely difficult.
All right. And that's the good news?
That's good news. That's as good as it's going to get. It's not going to get any better right now, unless Melanie has found something we haven't been looking for. Yeah.
And again, I think that's one of the reasons that we all wanted to, bring the teams together from both sides here. And we'll be doing the same meetings with Finance Committee, the same meeting with Capital. Just to explain, it's for those that were here in the early 2000s. We know what we went through back then, and this could be a repeat of that.
We went through it, not that I was here, I was next door, but 09, 10, and 11
Yep.
were equally difficult.
So it's it's challenging, but what we're looking for is everyone to sit down, understand we're all up against the same thing. There's just no easy way of saying, and you hate to see the words that say, we may have to drop some people. We don't want to drop any people. What we have to do is see what we can do within the money aspects of this budget to make sure that we do not have to let people that are too important to this town, leave these jobs. So
And I
that's
think,
the message we're trying to get out tonight.
and Melanie has worked with you all when we were coming up with that 4-year plan. We were going to be dipping in the reserves. We were going to be lowering our stabilization levels. We were going to be decreasing the amount of free cash. We were going to be using both of those sources for funding operations and for capital. Somebody would say, well, wait a minute, you just got $2,100,000 from the land sale. Yeah, and we already allocated it 6 months ago. We already said we built that in to that 4-year scenario. So the money's, we're going to be using that money to balance operations and capital, but now trying somehow to do that over 6 years rather than 4 years. So we're really glad that the land sold for the amount that it did, but it's exactly what we already had that in our balance sheet to be used.
Do we have one paragraph, Charlie, on how we got into this situation with Plymouth County Retirement?
Well, I think
What went wrong?
I think the paragraph, I just gave you the paragraph. The 4 years were going to be challenging enough, but what happened, according to them, is they needed to change actuarial tables. Basically, people are living longer, and especially they're seeing people living longer. Folks who are living longer tend to be up towards the top of the wage scale, and also the increases for many, and it's not, they weren't actually picking on East Bridgewater. They said we were actually in pretty good shape versus many other communities. But many other communities, especially for department heads and such, they're seeing increases above what they were expecting. And so you put all those together and you ended up with liabilities that were larger than expected. And that piece of it, and also, as I mentioned, the market, as much as the market's been great the last 2 years in '23 and '24, when they can't take '24 into account until '24 ends. So when they came up with their assessments for fiscal '26 and '27, what they needed to use were the market numbers from '22 and '23, and '22 was not a good year. And so they had to build that in, and they said, we will not be, if we say to the cities and towns, we're going to do this in 4 years, the 8, 9, 10% increases that we might see right now would be much larger than that, because we would in essence have to cover 6 years of liability within 4. So think about a much larger increase in our assessments to get us fully funded, which would be equally untenable here.
Peter?
Yeah, so, appreciate you coming in, Gordon, bringing in the rest of the committee. So the two things I think this board has struggled with are the fact that we have so many projects in the works at the schools, and also one that's been mentioned was the safety building. So there's a committee put together right now to try to get the police and the fire into a new building. Of course, police have been working out of a basement now for quite some time. So, that's another large project. It's down the road for sure, but, it's something that we've got a committee together, and there'll be a feasibility study for that, hopefully, within the next year. So you can see what's happening here, a lot of different projects and a lot of different concerns. And forget about the contractual ones, but these ones are even more difficult. So additional funding has been a major topic for this committee and for myself personally. And if anyone knows me, they've heard about the Route 18 project and, what we're trying to do down there. For better or for worse, if you've opened up social media, you can find out how badly some people, don't want this project, and so, and some do. So, really what I was thinking about prior to coming to this meeting is just letting the committee members know, yourself as well. You really got to start to hopefully try to understand that project as well. Whether you're for it or against it, that's not really what I mean. Obviously, I want you to be for it, but it's one of those things where I think as it gets more, I don't know how much more visible it's going to get with the meetings we've already had, and I want to thank John and Gina, obviously, for coming to the zoning board at a meeting for the 40B, which is attached to this. So there's so many moving parts to this. We'll be here for 4 hours talking about what's going on in that district. But I think what I feel like, and I think the board feels like, is it's one of the opportunities, the only one I've come up with, we've come up with in the last few years, that has the ability to, get this additional funding on a revolving aspect, instead of selling a piece of land that we get, $2 million and then we spend it within a week, and now we're back to square one again. Right. So I would ask that, as we continue these talks, which I think are important, everybody just starts to get a better understanding of what we're proposing. And it's residential as well as commercial, but honestly, it's, from what we've done, the studies we've done and the work we've done with engineering companies and whatnot, I mean, this has been a 5 or 6 year project. I think, I hope that, that you'll see it the same way we do, and, you'll start to, maybe even promote some of that as well, because, it's a business, right? It's a $60 million business. You're part of that business. Right. We're part of that business, and we just got to continue moving forward there. So that was really what I wanted to get across. The only other concern I have is cybersecurity. Really concerned, and me and Dan Peak have talked about this. Obviously, he works for South Shore Bank, and obviously Peter and John as well. We're very vulnerable, as most places are. Not just not just private business, but definitely we've seen in the municipality already. Just Whitman a while back ago. We've got some major issues if we ever get hit. And what we've talked about a little bit, and I think maybe this group can start to work together on that, is finding ways to maybe even start to find creative ways, I guess I should say, to share some of the IT stuff that we have going on. I've certainly talked to Ryan about it. I think, I know I've talked to John as well, and he's talked to your people over there as well. So, going forward, that might be an area that, we can start to collaborate a little bit. And, I think that's a good start to see what can be done, not just for the security of it, but also maybe for some of the funding reasons that we could do. And from there, I know you guys talked about human resources as well, an area that we've got some concerns about as well. I think we've got a path, but we can always open up those doors to communicate about that as well, to see what we can do.
Well, I certainly agree. Nowadays, the age we're living in, cybersecurity is one of those things that who knew 10 years ago what we're up against. So we obviously take it seriously. The HR department, talking with Superintendent Legault, the school employs somewhere between 250, 300 people. 350. A lot of people and a lot of moving parts and a lot of serious, issues that have to be dealt with. And so HR is a big part of that. I think right now we're looking at some software to help in that area, rather than, bring in another body, which be needed but expensive. And I totally understand our focus and our responsibility is to educate the children of our community, and we take that seriously. But we also realize we're part of the community, and there isn't just endless funding, but we need to look at that seriously and do the best we can. Everybody, I'm sure, there's no argument that talked about people being our biggest assets, although I'm sure there's a better word than assets. Our children are our future. Everybody knows that and understands it. And so we have that responsibility to make sure that they're set up for success, and we'll do everything we can there within the confines of what our overall responsibilities are in the towns. I look forward to, I think Dave mentioned maybe in January we get back together again. I know we have another meeting coming up with Charlie and Melanie. And as this thing moves forward, hopefully we can come up with some solutions. Someday people will look back and go, wow, I don't know how they did it. I'll be optimistic that we'll find a way.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, Gordon, that we're gonna be hearing from, all the departments, the same thing. They have to, the best they possibly can, take care of their people.
Yep.
And that's what we expect.
Mhm.
But again, we have to just get that circle and say the circle doesn't have any holes in it. The circle's just gonna be there, and that's what we have to stay within.
Right. Yep.
So, we do appreciate that, and, yeah, I would definitely like to, get together in January, see where we are, and elaborate a little bit more on what Peter just said.
Sure.
On some of these other subjects, we'll put an agenda and go through a little bit of another time.
Absolutely. More information is always better than
Absolutely.
the opposite. So that helps everybody in the process.
Carol?
Okay.
I think it's good to sit down together, and I think that we need to be mindful, because people will say things to us, oh, the school committee said that, and then I'm sure people say things to you like, oh, the select board said that. And I would like to avoid all of that this year, because, people talk about all kinds of things, and as Peter alluded to, social media, all you gotta do is go and look at that, and the things that people are saying about the three of us that we're getting kickbacks and all this, and, so we all know that rumors are crazy. I'm still waiting for my check, I don't know. So we all know that rumors are out there.
Peter must have it all, because I get it.
I don't know, maybe it went to the school committee. Maybe we can throw you guys in with us, right?
Sure.
But I think there's just this tendency to let that distract us, when really we all want the same thing. We all want to have a budget that can do all the things that we want it to do, and then we live in reality where it can't. So I think the more we do this, the easier it will get, the less awkward it will feel. You guys are elected officials, we're elected officials, you guys, are employees, and we all have the same goal at the end of the day. And that's really, what I hope comes out of any of these sort of joint meetings. It's awkward because, it's public, and it's, you can't really have like a working meeting, right? But we can still at least talk about what our common goals are, and respect how we all think we should get there.
Well, thank you, Carol. To your point, I think one of the points Charlie touched on earlier, there's all kinds of eyes and ears watching, some informed, some not so informed, and stories, unfold and become more problematic than anything else, and there's enough problems we got to deal with. And my experience over my career is, when people don't have all the information, they fill in, and it's usually not on the positive side, it's on the negative side. And it'll always be thus, I suppose, but to the extent that we can put as much information out there as possible and agree that we're on the same page, then that's the best we can do, but that's certainly a reasonable approach to it, so I'm all in favor of that. Okay.
Let me just add one final statement to that. For those out there that seem to know exactly how all the business works in this town, I want to congratulate them, because they're doing a lot better than the rest of us. For the non-informed, our doors are always open on both ends. If you have a problem, if you have a question, why not come to the people that put in hours upon hours upon hours of deciding what's best for the 15,000 people in East Bridgewater and not listen to someone else that's on social media, that it probably has not stepped a foot in town hall, the library, DPW, or the school ever.
Right. No,
That's
I-
my final statement.
When I had my company, I would tell people, hey, problems are always going to be out there. That's never going to change. But all I would ask is, go to somebody who can fix the problem.
Or at
Not
least
to the
answer.
person sitting beside you and say, oh, can you believe what those folks did?
Or at least answer it, you know,
In a
with
reasonable way,
information that you
sure.
have.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
other
folks.
questions for us? We good?
Oh, we're good.
I just
Anything
have
up
to,
there?
thank you, Peter. I'll have to now take a motion to close our meeting.
Motion to adjourn the school committee portion of this.
That's what we need? Good. No discussion? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank you
great
very much. Yes,
Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, have a nice
Yeah.
holiday.
Madam Clerk, we'll move on to action items.
Yes, sir. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 Select Board meeting.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain from that since I wasn't at that meeting.
I make a motion to approve but not release the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 Select Board Executive Session meeting.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
No, I'll abstain from that also. Could we move right on to, let's see, the people here for
Number 4,
number 4,
right?
Andy's Restaurant. We have a large contingent here from the restaurant. If you, spokesperson, could come up and have a seat up here, we'll move head to 4. You can all come up if you'd like.
It's a family, it's a family.
One big family. Families
Our
are
oldest
good.
brother is here to try to represent them, so thank you to having us.
Oh, well,
Sorry for the long wait.
So this is a family restaurant, so it's,
Okay.
my brother's been very successful in Weymouth for over than 15 years, and now he tried to open up a restaurant here down the street. He also a resident in Bridgewater, he have a house.
we won't hold that against them.
Oh, thank you, I appreciated that. Now the Weymouth is very happy with his job. He's been doing business for so many years in Weymouth. You know, it's a small place. It's a breakfast and lunch from the beginning. That's why we want to start,
Okay.
to see how that.
If we went further, can we just ask for your names, please, so we can get it for the record?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Antonio Gervasio.
Okay. All set with that. Okay, so the restaurant that you had in Weymouth, you've had for 15 years? Is
Yes.
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, you're still maintaining that restaurant,
Yes.
plus adding this one to it?
That's correct.
Okay,
You're a chain.
and you're gonna be open for breakfast and lunch? So
That's correct.
it's like 6 to 2? 4. 6 to 4. 6 to 4, oh,
Yes.
okay.
Late lunch.
Late lunch, okay.
Right.
All right.
When do you hope to open?
I'm sorry.
When do you hope to open the restaurant?
Until more.
We wouldn't
We're
license.
ready to go now.
Yes.
I didn't know if you had construction or anything else.
No, no, everything has been done.
I think
Everything
Oh,
is done.
great.
the health agent's gonna be there Wednesday for a final.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I think the building has one more visit too, and then they'll be all set.
Great.
And the building has been all renovated, everything's brand new, everything's up to code. I mean, we're not gonna have any problems according to the town request.
Okay,
So
great.
we're good to go.
Good. Peter?
Excellent.
Carol?
No, I'm good.
Peter?
You ready
Good
for-
luck.
ready
Thank
for
you so
lunch?
much.
Need
Sure we'll
anything
see
from
you in
us?
there.
Let us know when you open and.
Absolutely. You guys are all welcome
Oh,
to
yeah.
coming over.
Be there.
Are you guys coming in?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the common victual license for the period ending December 31st, 2024, pending inspections. Nanda's Restaurant, Alexander Gervasio, 225 Bedford Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? All
Can you
those in
make that
favor?
motion pending inspections?
I said
We
pending
did.
Oh, okay, I'm
inspections.
sorry.
Yep, no, that's all right. I read it just the way you printed it.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Good luck, folks.
Good luck.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
All right, do you want to go back to number 3?
Yeah, that should be a long conversation.
I make a motion to discuss and vote on the Select Board 2025 meeting schedule.
Any questions?
I'm busy all those days.
Good. We can get it done quicker. Any questions at all? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to discuss and vote to approve the agreement with the food pantries.
Okay, what this is we had about, I think, $1,900 left in the bicentennial fund. We'd like to release that equally to the two food pantries in town, like we did, I think the middle of the year, we did the same thing, and it's around holiday time, we thought it would be a good time to release that money out.
Yep, great.
Any discussion?
No,
All
good
those
idea.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve the use of ARPA funding to purchase cardiac monitors in the amount of $205,383.72.
Second.
Charlie?
Basically, we've, during the last few months, there have been projects that we realized we're not going to get off the ground in time to make a commitment by the end of this calendar year. On the other hand, the fire chief and fire department have this set up, we're ready to go. It's because it's town money, we're able to use that for any reason. There's not limited categories. And given that, and to make sure that, as the commissioners mentioned, we don't want to be sending money back down to DC, it's an eligible expense, so I'm recommending the board approve it.
Okay. Peter?
No, I talked to Tim, called me about it, I don't know what the hell it is, but he says he needs.
Well, the monitors
It's to
are, I
save
believe,
your
in the,
life.
All right,
I
well.
believe they're located in the various ambulances.
Right.
So
Okay.
they're-
Sounds good to me.
Do you know how many monitors we're talking?
2,
That
3,
is good.
3.
Carol?
Yeah, no, it's okay with me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve for Chair Dave Sheedy to sign the invitation to the Accelerated Repair Program letter for the Gordon W. Mitchell School.
Second.
And this is what we were talking about earlier tonight with the roof and windows. Basically, it's saying, yes, we want to be in this line when we're committed to meeting the the first set of deadlines, which includes holding that town meeting and appropriating the money by the middle of January.
Now, I've seen advertised recently on TV, some kind of commercial about some kind of sealants that they use to try to extend the life of roofs. Would that be something that we?
They would not pay for that.
Okay. All right then.
Moving on.
All those in favor?
Aye. Is this a motion, or we're just discussing?
I believe we had already sent out the letter to the departments asking for any comments. I don't believe, we didn't get anything back.
No comments. Paula, the right of refusal, the first right of refusal, do you have any comments on that?
No, basically, we're in charge of releasing it. We held a lien on them. When they do take the lien off and they go to sell it, they have to pay their rollback tax, or they can take it out and hold on to it for 5 years and not sell it. In that case, you wouldn't have a first right of refusal, but if they're deciding to sell it and put it back out there, it has to go to the board at market rate if you decided to buy it. Otherwise, they'll be paying a rollback tax before that comes out of, they can sell it.
But none of the department heads had any concerns.
Okay. Do you want me to read this, though, to get it into the minutes?
Please.
The address. We were discussing to waive the first right of refusal on Mass General Law, Chapter 61A, located at 453 Bedford Street, Bridge Street, parcel ID number 0 through 8-0056, and also discuss waiving the first right of refusal, Mass General Law, Chapter 61A, located at 437 Winter Street, parcel ID number 120-39-0.
Okay, so we're making a motion to exercise our right to first refusal.
Right, when waiving that right.
Waiving it.
Right, so moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Discuss and vote on a date to hold a special town meeting for the Gordon W. Mitchell Middle School project.
And so I was recommending the 6th. I wasn't going to try and hold it in December, given the holidays, and in fact, we're already at November 18th at this point. I mean, it takes, there's a certain amount of logistics to do to get a town meeting organized, correct, Katie? Yes. So I was recommending the 6th. If the board wanted to do it the 13th, that would be also doable. the board might want to pick one date and contingent upon the school being available, and if not being available, the other date, we would go with the other date.
And weather.
Well, the weather's going to be what the weather's going to be.
Mhm.
We don't have need a quorum.
I'd like to.
I was
see
just
it-
thinking, like, if there was no school, would we,
I don't know.
you never know.
Yeah. Well, you'd need several people to go to the meeting and vote to continue the
Continue
meeting
it
to
till
a
later
next
date.
possible date.
Even if, like, say there was a snowstorm and there was no school that day.
Yes.
That was
So
kind
it's-
of my
Yes.
way
Still
of
have to
thinking.
go in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's similarly what we did with COVID, where we,
Right.
you'd
Yep.
have a few people go to the meeting place at that time and place and say, fine, we're gonna vote to open the meeting, fine, move to adjourn to whenever.
Okay.
I'd rather see it on the 13th than the 6th.
I don't really have strong feelings one way or the other.
Just give people, a break after the holidays.
Sure, 13th is fine.
And if we need to add another, select board meeting between
Okay.
something like that, we can do it that way. You're gonna be away or anything?
Nope, 13th sounds good.
Okay,
So the 13th.
13th.
Perfect.
You want a motion?
Yes.
Make a motion that we have a special town meeting for the Mitchell School project on January 13th, 2025.
At 7 o'clock at the junior
7
senior
PM at the junior
high
senior high
school
school.
auditorium.
He said.
Second.
And to open the warrant. And to open the warrant.
And to open the warrant.
And we will close the warrant 2
And to
weeks.
close the warrant.
And we will
Are we-
close the
are we-
warrant.
Why do I say anything?
And we will, but also you're voting to close the warrant in 2 weeks. We'll notify the departments just in case.
Okay,
That's what I was gonna say. Just in
Are you
case.
through?
that's my motion.
That-
Can you-
Yeah, do you have anything? No.
Why don't we just have him make the motion? And then-
You want to contribute?
Anybody
Any-
else?
We're happy to take, add-ons here.
Clearly.
Hopefully no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye. And that is it for action items, Mr. Chair.
Charles?
Well, we go to the second one, and I don't want to step on Pollard's toes. You want to talk about the land auction? No? We got a lot of money? Did we get the money?
We got the money.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got the
Did we
deposits.
spend it by that next Monday?
Excuse me?
Do we have it all spent by the following
I
Monday?
was listening in my office earlier, and by the sounds of it, I guess so. But at least we managed to finish this was the third one. It's done. Once we close on these, the Hanson land will be complete, and basically, there's one little parcel that we just got released today that we'll auction off when we do a few next year. Megan's got a plan. But yeah, and the people the large parcel was bought by a gentleman that does kind of industrial more than
That sold for
residential.
$2.1 million, which is
Yeah.
about what we were hoping for, given everything.
Right, so, but the next phase will be, they'll start to do things out there, and then that will come back on the tax roll. We'll get the new growth while that's happening, and that always is helpful for us, so, going in a great direction.
And we sold the other small parcels, I think one was for $2,000 and one was for $4,700.
And then the other one, the little corner by the gym that's been sitting there for a long, long time, somehow we had to pull it out of the auction the day of, 4 years ago. They were able to get that for, I think it was $8,700 or something. 67. Yeah, there was a big bidding war that went back and forth.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It was exciting. It was fun to watch.
But I do want to thank, obviously, Paula a great deal. This land sale work had been going on before I started here 3 years ago. So it's been a long, long time project, happening in phases, a lot of organization, a lot of nitpicky stuff. I don't mean that Paula was being nitpicky, but you had to be very specific and very careful about everything to make sure everything worked together. So just, it's not just we get the 2.1, it's off our rolls, off our responsibility, and we'll at some point be getting property tax revenue on an annual basis, which will help the town's costs. The rest of the financial team obviously contributed also, Megan especially, but also Melanie, in putting all this together. Again, so it's one of those situations you need an interdepartmental effort to make it work, and that's what we got here.
Thank you, and thank you all. Thank you, Paul.
Great job.
Okay. Carriage price?
We've been in contact with the owners, not having heard anything back yet. This to do with the connection to the Central Street District, the sewer district we have, not the North Bedford one that we're still in the planning process. I'm waiting to hear back about schedule for payment of fees. We haven't sent out one letter a couple of weeks ago. We've sent out a certified letter in the last few days. We're hoping to hear back soon.
How much do they owe us?
It's a couple $100,000, I think. Civil service, we ended up with very unexpected good news. On the economic development bill that was sent to the governor's office, Dave Kaufman from the MMA had notified John Clifford last week that there was a clause that somehow got inserted into the economic development bill that in essence said, if a city or town sent in a special legislative petition, like East Bridgewater did, from the period of January of 03 to July of, 23 to July of 24, then by this economic development bill, everything's a yes. Basically everything, all those petitions are now encompassed in this paragraph, and it shall occur.
What?
With an effective date of March of 25.
Has it been signed yet?
No, it's up with Governor Healy's office right now.
Okay.
Wow.
So let's not count it yet.
Well, the only thing I've seen about any other thing was a nonprofit corporation dealing with some sort of mortgage systems. And I guess there were questions about how well or not well that was working. I've not seen any news articles or blurbs or anything about the civil service, aside from, I think it was another community saying, oh, we're going to be able to do this. Okay, good. I think it was out in Metro.
That would be
someplace.
so great.
Yes, right.
Wow.
So,
Good.
so that's
Okay.
great news will be out of that. And, it does, what Chief Jenkins will still be able to do is, in the meantime, he still has those positions he wanted to fill, and the idea will be to fill those two civil service slots with people who are, I believe, interim officers, but are also dispatchers would be. So we'll have qualified people for that. And then he can move on to the list that was generated by the in-town examination back in April.
Good.
In connection with the civil service and getting out, we'll have David sign a letter to the personnel administrator of the Division of Human Resources for the Commonwealth, along with the Civil Service Commission, Public Service, the Joint Committee on Public Service in the legislature, informing us, yes, we want to get out. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Please.
So if you want to authorize David to sign that letter to send up, we'll get it dated once we hear that Governor Healy has signed the necessary legislation.
Make a motion for you to sign the letter.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I mentioned obviously the Central Street sewer, not Central District sewer. On the North Bedford Street sewer district, Paula and Chris have been working on the issue of trying to establish our ownership of the landlocked parcel. And one of the things we'll need to do, no matter how we do it, is to get a clear survey so we get clear title to the parcel. They've been in contact with the engineering firm PMP. It's going to cost between, I think, $17,000 and $21,000.
I asked him for an actual estimate.
And I checked with Melanie, it's an authorized expense as part of because obviously we need to have that done in order to get the federal grant. We need the federal grant to get the work done. So I'm going to move forward and sign off on whatever contractual arrangement we need with PMP to get the survey work done. So that will move forward. Totally different thing, parking ban. Some years the police department sends this out on social media, and sometimes they don't. They did this year, I guess. We had somebody come to the office and ask about it. There is a parking ban here in East Bridgewater from the middle of November to the middle of April. People did get, not tickets, but they got warning notices during the weekend. I guess the person had never seen that happen before.
Right.
But we do have the overnight street parking. It's prohibited during those dates. According to the police chief, they don't normally ticket people or give out the warnings. But if we have a snowstorm, sorry, you're getting towed. We're not gonna bang on your door or anybody else's door to find you. If your car's out on the street when it's snowing, it's gonna be gone, you're gonna have to find it from the towing company.
Yeah.
But it's, I went back and looked at the police department's announcements about this in most years, and it goes back more than 10 years. And according to Michael, they've been doing this since '97, at least, when he came in.
Yeah, it's been forever.
I'm not sure how the origin occurred. The board, in the traffic rules and regulations, Rebecca pointed out that the police chief has the authority to establish parking and such. And it may have been way back when dinosaurs ruled the earth at a previous police chief.
No, I wasn't here, Peter.
Yeah.
Even before your time, yes.
Driving the
Previous
snowmobile.
previous police chief said, okay, from now on, every year, in between these dates is a overnight parking ban. So we do have one here. We did get a thank you note from the Kiwanis. They wanted to thank the entire DPW and the great electrician that did the new wiring at the town common. They're delighted to be part of the big group effort to get the common's electrical wiring up to code. They're thrilled to think the common's going to look especially brighter this year for Christmas on the common. They can't wait to get the garland and lights up to decorate the common. They do fundraising just so we can improve the town for the good of the families that live here. And this was from Albert Anderson, who is the president. And just so we can improve our town for the good of the families that live here. I'm sure we will have many decades of events in the town common, which we can now light up with pride. Also, they're borrowing the light stanchion out for the trees. I said that's a public safety issue. I don't need anybody walking around in the dark in that area during the tree sales. Thankfully, John Haynes and DPW had one that they could bring over. I guess they had used one from another entity or another person in previous years, and that person wasn't wasn't available or something else happened, and so they were looking for a new light stanchion.
Probably from Bruce
Maybe, that might have been a Bruce thing.
Yeah, but that worked out also, but thank you from Kiwanis. The fire chief has indicated he does not plan on renewing his contract at the end of this coming June.
Been down this road before.
Right.
No, does he mean it this time?
I have to, right now, if we have the letter, I guess he always could take it back. He has not and very likely will be leaving before June 30th, but there's no definite date. So I can't really start any sort of recruitment process or anything. I do have a list of firms that do recruitment and evaluations and everything like that. So assessment centers. So as we get closer to whatever date it is, we'll get that ball rolling. But right now, we can't hire someone and tell them, okay, now you got to wait 2 months.
Right.
So we'll see how it comes out.
Yep.
Let's see, on the solar farm that we're hoping to do in Bridge Street, we're going to be spending about $5,000 for the application to National Grid. This is not the actual plans for the facility. This is for how the facility that will be built there would connect to National Grid. And they have certain windows where they will accept applications, and that window is closing at the end of next week. So, or maybe even, I think it's about the end of this week, in fact, on the 22nd. So we'll be using money from our electricity and utilities account to do that. I already talked about that, coverage crossing, land auction, civil service, and I do have one exec session.
More discussions.
I'm good.
You want to ask them for any announcements? No?
Okay.
Okay.
You got nothing? All right.
Can we get another desk so
Bigger one.
so that Rebecca's not like hanging on the end?
Are you, any of you three, you're just hanging out because there's nothing good on TV? Is that? Okay.
All that's on TV is us. This way you get it live.
Right.
Is it live or is it Memorex? I dated myself with
Yes,
that one,
you
didn't I?
Yeah, all I got is, wanted to say a thank you. We had our 12th annual food drive through my insurance agency, as well as through some of the towns and the schools. So I've got a list of, not a lot of people, but ones that really stepped up this year. Rebecca in Town Hall did a great job, had quite a bit of product too. So thank you to whoever donated, and
all the
thank you
departments
for
stepped up.
coordinating that. Yeah, it worked out real well. DPW did a great job. They had some things. Obviously, they came and helped us pick up the product from the different departments as well as from all 3 schools. And we delivered half to St. John's and then the other half to the Union Congressional. So another successful program. I can't mention the fire and the police because we didn't get anything from them. I'm gonna have to talk to both of them. Well, the fire did say they do the Toys for Tots, so that's their big campaign. But anyways, we certainly appreciate it, and the food pantries thank you as well. So
I hope your house doesn't burn down.
yeah, that's all right. You know,
Just saying.
I'm baiting them for
Make
next
sure
year.
you go
right?
below the speed limit when you're driving
Right.
around town, too.
I'd walk home if I were you.
Yeah, that's all right.
Don't park outside.
They're all after me for worse things
Back
than
on the
that, that's
street.
for sure. But no, it was good. Worked out great.
Okay,
Katie's got some.
I just wanted to ask before you guys close.
Yeah.
go for it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not so much.
Because I didn't come for open forum, I was a little bit late, I apologize. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the election that we just held on November
All right.
5th. And give you guys some numbers along with, if you had any questions, and I have a bunch of thank yous.
Mm-hmm.
So total ballots cast for the past election was 8,660, which was a 75% voter turnout. I think it was a little lower than I was anticipating, I don't want to lie, but apparently throughout the state, we're right in line with what we saw. It was a little bit less than 2020. It was 161 people less. But we have, yeah. But we've gone up in registered voters by 1,000. So during advanced processing, which was our first time doing it for a presidential election, we processed 4,159 ballots in advance. So that's where we actually, all the early voting that had happened up until that Thursday, we processed upstairs. It was open to the public. They could come and view, and it was the wardens and clerks from their precincts that would come in, and it would be just like a regular election, processing them. The difference and the reason we do it in advance is because the actual tabulators can only do so many ballots per minute. So the last presidential election, we were there till 2 a.m. running ballots through it. So, and as you can imagine, being there at 6 a.m. and then still having to do all your numbers, it's crazy. So it's much easier to just kind of separate them. We have a total of 34 election staff that I want to thank right now. We did add an additional 9 due to obviously the demands of early voting and how that has changed the voting process throughout the state and what is expected. So, so our staff has gotten a little bit bigger. And then the total hours that they put in, you guys have to remember that this includes the early voting in person, which is 2 weeks, full 2 weeks prior to an election, as well as vote by mail, which began a little bit early, a month earlier. They put in a total of 1,113 hours, which is, it's a huge amount of time and commitment, and I'm just extremely thankful that they come in and they support us, and it's typically just your community members. It's 34 of your neighbors that come out and make this happen and really take it seriously. We did do a lot of training. We had to do a little bit of some scary training this year, and I asked a lot of them. So I just want to let them know how much I appreciate them. They're a wonderful, wonderful group of people. Also, I just wanted to say that I had a wonderful relationship over this time with the police chief and the deputy police chief. And all day we had 2 police officers. We had no incidents to speak of. And everything that did happen, we were able to handle day of election, which was wonderful. And that was Sergeant he told me to just call him AJ.
AJ.
Sergeant Visine, I cannot say his last name. But he is absolutely amazing and was just really, really wonderful to have on the ground, and really was super supportive and helpful throughout the whole day. And we were all kind of on high alert, so it was a wonderful thing to have him there. As well as, I have to thank the custodians, Ed Sweeney. They're wonderful. They do all of our setup and breakdown, and are there on the call throughout my entire day. And I work very closely with them and really appreciate them. And then John Shea actually had to come back in because we did have a little investigation that did happen during the day.
Can you elaborate on that? That was a crazy story.
Yes, we had, I absolutely can. So we had a gentleman come in and he had voted 2 hours before. And we had.
Did you hear this story yet?
Sheldon, this isn't Chicago?
Yeah.
With that way?
And obviously he was upset. We were upset. And it was a situation where a person had come in. They had the exact same name. They swore they were a registered voter in East Bridgewater. They were in the correct precinct, lived at, like, the first beginning of the number was the same address number. It was a different street. And had a license, which did say Avon, but he said he had been to Avon and that they had told him he was a registered voter in East Bridgewater, and that's where he grew up and that's where his family lived. So that seemed like a realistic situation. And so, and he was in the poll pad, except it wasn't him. So he voted, and so when the other gentleman showed up, we actually took a situation where we had no idea who had been there 2 hours before.
Right.
And through John Shea, AJ, the police department, my office, we were able to take the cameras, and we actually, I want to say AJ, within an hour and a half, had identified the person from the camera footage that had voted. We had already spoken to the person before I even had to call the state and tell them what had happened. It was incredible. I can't say enough. It was it was an amazing situation, and the state was very impressed. When I first told them and started the story, they just kept sending me to the next person, so that I was finally on the phone with Michelle Tessaneri, who is like the head of elections. And she was like, she does not know me, but she's the kind of person who was like, Katie, what's going on? And so I'm telling her, and she goes, I thought this story was going to end really differently. Good job. So I was like, okay. And she was very impressed with AJ as well. So it was a really scary experience, and everybody in the room kind of, like the warden clerk was very upset initially, but we were able to figure it out, and it was not malicious intent in any way on anybody's part. And AJ followed up, I believe, with the gentleman just to let him know that it was all figured out.
Yeah.
So it was an incredible story and a great learning experience, and
Only in East Bridgewater.
only in East Bridgewater, only when you say, oh, it's going really good today. And then it just doesn't. Things go sideways. Yeah, so did you guys have any questions?
I just have a quick question. How many requests did you get for mail-in ballots, and how many of them actually mailed them in?
Oh, so we made sure to get you this number because we were prepared from last time. So this was a much better one. I don't want to lie. So we had requested 2,690 and returned were 2,491. Okay. So it was a 93% return rate. Right. We would love to see that all the time, but I think it was just because of the election. And we had very few rejects, which was also good because the last time we had hundreds, this time we only had 62. So, which meant that they sent it without signing it typically which meant we had to resend a new one. And we do get reimbursed as of right now from the state. Yes, I know. Read
your mind.
Yeah.
I always ask the same question for the last 8 years.
Wait for a correct answer.
Yeah, we do. So that will come out. DLS, Department of Labor and Statistics, releases the survey, which I had Missy tracking all of our numbers down to how many labels I used, because they did question me the last time. And this time I'm going to tell them exactly how many labels I used.
Right.
So hopefully, we will see that, Melanie, in February.
Good luck.
So that's everything.
Great.
Thank you guys
Yeah,
so much.
thank you.
And thank you guys for letting me take over your entire space for 2 full weeks. I greatly appreciate it.
all right.
And it was, honestly, everybody in the building was really wonderful to us too. I can't say enough, Charlie. Everybody gave us a bit of space because I know we were probably all bears. And it was, you know, I'm glad I'm through it, and I have 4 years to recover from it.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks,
job.
Katie.
Just one more thing on board discussions. This year for the Veterans Parade, it was in Bridgewater, the Tri-Town Parade, and it was an excellent day, big crowd. We were all there, and it was a fun experience. But the thing I really want to emphasize is Crochetti's meat market. They had given us word the week before that they were going to give out 250 turkeys to any veteran that showed up with a proper ID. This was supposed to run from 1 to 3 o'clock. Well, I got there about 10 past 12 to help get IDs ready and stuff like that. There was probably already 150 people in line at that point.
Wow.
They ended up finally giving out, after everything was said and done, 412 turkeys.
That's amazing.
No one was rejected. They just kept on finding it brought them in. And then they turned around, that was actually Veterans Day, the day after. They sponsored a luncheon for 60 veterans up at the community center at the COA.
Yep.
Again, so they are great for this town. Please support them.
Yep.
They just can't do enough. They've sponsored a couple of grab-and-goes that we've had recently because we still don't have our grab-and-go money.
Bill,
from the
we're
state.
working on that. I just signed the contract form.
Okay, good. So I can't say enough about them. The owners were there, the owners' sons were there, the managers were there helping pass out these turkeys. It was a fun day. Heard a lot of great stories from our veterans, too. I mean, just great stories. So, again, thank Rochetti's.
That's a great community partnership. I try to go there at least,
Yeah.
once a week. The chicken salad, if nothing else. The steaks are good, but the chicken salad,
Really? Well, try that.
All right, are we going into executive?
Yes,
Troy?
very briefly, I hope.
You're up, Clark.
make a motion to close open meeting and enter executive session and not return to open session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Building Commissioner, Zoning Enforcement Officer, Director of Assessing, IT Director, Library Director, Town Accountant, Treasurer,
Something we said?
Collector, Assistant Town Administrator, and Town Administrator. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Firefighters, superior officers, clerical, DPW, dispatchers, superior officers, patrol officers, library, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A9, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation as the chair has determined that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position in a matter involving Town of East Bridgewater versus Ritter Farm. Vote to close executive session and not return to open session. I, Carol Julius.
Hi, David Sheedy.
Hi, Peter Spigone.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving,
everyone.
everybody.
See you in December.